Hello, and welcome to the Herondale Boy Support Group. I'm Melanie.
I'm Allie.
And this is Cordelia. And we are all here to help. Right,
Is
Cordy?
Cordy here to help?
Cordy? Are you
She's
here?
here to
Are you
help
with
me.
us?
Because
Hello?
I could always use Cordy.
Yes,
For those of you who are
Cordelia.
listening to this podcast,
Yeah.
Cordelia is my Pomeranian poodle mix, who was named for Cordelia Carstairs. So, and yeah.
Yeah.
So
Who
obviously
else?
we had to have her make an appearance on the book that is her on the cover.
Exactly. So if you're listening to us, this is an incentive to go over and watch what we're doing on Twitch live. Get to get
To
dog
see
content.
a cute doggo.
Yes. She's a little frumpy, but she's cute. She's sweet. She's not a lot like
As we like to
Cordelia
say.
in the book, but that's okay.
They've got heart. They both have heart.
As
They
we
do.
like to say here and other places, we are blessed by the Cordelia.
Yes, we are blessed.
Blessed. Cordelia is ready for her nap. She's just like, what are you doing to me?
I am also ready for my nap.
She's so tolerant. Like, she just kind of puts
Bye,
up with shit.
Cordy. I love you.
Bye, Cordy.
I'll let her go nap now.
Anyway.
Of course, she would have preferred to just nap like in my arms, but
Yeah,
I can't.
she loves to
sustain
sleep
that
in
for an
Ginny's
hour.
lap.
She does.
She
Ginny is
do.
her favorite person.
Yeah.
I had her before Ginny and I were roommates, and doesn't matter. As soon as Ginny and I moved in together, Cordy was like, "Mom, ho, only Ginny."
Mm-hmm.
Yep. The Cordy life has chosen me.
Mm-hmm. Cordy is basically Ginny's dog. It's fine. I've accepted this.
Mm.
I'm no longer hurt by this. Milo
Well,
still
you
knows
have
that
two
he's
dogs
mine,
now.
and that's fine.
Yeah.
They belong, and neither of them belong to me, and I am sad about that.
You'll have to visit at some point. I'm sure we'll work that out.
Hopefully.
So how's
Yep.
everybody been? How's life?
Been a few weeks.
It has
Had to
been.
Yeah,
Skip because
I
we were
miss
away
my
last
friends.
week. Oh,
Aw,
your friends miss you too.
yes.
Aw.
We've been busy, actually, which is
Yeah.
a thing.
It's a thing when you like live an adult life. Terrible, but sometimes things are fun.
I haven't been quite as busy, but agreed that living an adult life is terrible.
Yeah, it was funny because Jenny and I got so busy in like November, December of last year, and we're so ready to have like a calm January, and then we didn't. So
No. Yeah. And then like looking towards like February, I'm also like, oh,
we're
it's
also
not going to be
looking
a
at
calm February either. And I'm just like, I guess this is how life works. Every month you're like, maybe next month I'll relax. And then you don't.
Which will say a lot of the things that we're doing are mostly fun things, you know? Like,
Yeah, that's true. It just takes effort to plan trips, you know? We're going on a few trips, like, you know, to visit family or to do stuff
Family
with
field
family.
trips.
And it's just like, as the coordinators of fun,
we are coordinators of fun.
we are the coordinators of fun for these trips specifically. Like, yeah, I'm gonna go to a convention with my parents and they've never been to one before.
Wow.
And we're going to a big one, and I'm like, okay, so here's what we got to do. And so I have to coordinate the fun
And
here.
who are they going to go meet?
They're gonna go meet William Shatner,
Whoa.
the original Kirk of Star Trek, because they were Trekkies before Trekkies had a name. So
Good for your parents.
I'm very happy for that they are so excited about this, but yeah, it's a thing that I have to coordinate because.
But it's hilarious.
Yeah, conventions are
talking
so
about it
different.
in December. And because Jenny was talking about what to get her parents, and I was like, your mom has talked about meeting Shatner so many times. Honestly, you should just get you both tickets to MegaCon, and you should just take her as your Christmas present. And then she was like, I don't want to do that because I don't want to go to the con. It's too big and all these other fun things. And then, was it like on Christmas Day you were like, I should have gotten the tickets?
Maybe.
But yeah.
I think it was a little after, but yeah, not too long after.
But then the Voice of Astarian's going too, and then it was all over. We all have to go
Neil
on a family
Newbon.
field trip. Yeah.
Yep, Neo Newbon's going, and then I was sitting in one of our D&D sessions actually, just sitting on this news, and I was like, I can't say it now; it'll pull Allie away from this entire campaign. And she's the DM. We can't have that.
If he was at New York Comic Con, I would have met him. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm very excited.
Maybe next year. Maybe next year.
Maybe. Doesn't seem like he's doing that many like it seems like he's starting to get into the con thing, you know. So it might
Which is
happen.
surprising
for
considering,
you.
like, I guess. Well, I don't want to get too far on a Neil Newbon tangent as much as he's great.
Listen,
'Cause
stay
we
tuned for
could
the
be here
Baldur's
for a
Gate
while.
3 podcast coming
Oh,
soon.
man.
We could be here for a while, and as much as we love Neil Newbon, he's not a Herondale boy.
He's not a
He's
Herondale
not a
boy.
Herondale boy.
Unfortunate, truly. Anyway, so let's talk about our Herondale boys. What were they up to?
Yes.
I have
So
that
much.
knowledge for you, sacredly typed in a Google Doc that I'm pulling up now.
And it's really mostly one Herondale boy with a gaggle of friends.
Yeah,
The
pretty much.
gaggle of Shadowhunters.
Yes,
You know.
the Merry Thieves and
Merry Thieves. Plus
Merry
crew,
Thieves and Co.
yes.
the girls.
And yeah, the Merry Thieves plus
Exactly.
the girls.
Plus Alistair. Plus
Right.
Mm.
Charles Buford.
Charles Buford.
Oh,
Charles.
You guys, I got.
Listen. We've got
I got
complaining
some
to do
things to
about
say.
Charles, but let me tell you what happened first. So,
Yes.
so chapters 8 to 14 is what we're
Yes.
reading this week, or discussing this week that we read. It'll take us to the end of part 1, technically, in this book too.
so this is your warning for spoilers for all of part 1. Yeah, if you don't like spoilers, then pause, come back after you've read the book. If you don't care about spoilers and just here for vibes, or you've already read it, then listen on. So, chapters 8 to 14. We start with Matthew unceremoniously interrupting Cordelia's tea with Anna Lightwood. As it turns out, the pair had plans to visit a downworlder salon, a place for art and ideas known as the Hell Ruelle, run by the warlock Hypatia Vex. The trio of Shadowhunters are invited to her inner chambers, where she is hosting another guest, the mermaid Arabella. The trio asks for help and Hypatia laughs, for why would she help Shadowhunters? Just then, Cordelia strikes Hypatia's glass with the sword Cortana, revealing its contents to have been poisoned by Hypatia's guest. Successfully saving her life and gaining her favor in return, the trio ask if London's Dunworlders have heard any about the mysterious demons that appear during the day and poison their victims. Unfortunately, no one in Hypatia's ear has heard anything of the sort. Only a rumor that someone powerful had told demons to avoid London. The Shadowhunters are given the name Ragnar Fell for more information, and they take their leave. In the in-between, we are treated to a spam phone call, to a vignette of Thomas's time in Paris, a vacation from his travel year. While in the City of Lights, he sees the newly erected Eiffel Tower and Alistair Carstairs. Somehow, Alistair on his own is almost tolerable, and time is spent together. Time that ends almost as abruptly as it starts. Meanwhile, in the Institute, Lucy is writing when the pages are snatched away by a ghost. Jessie Blackthorn. Jessie critiques her work, though it is only his secondary purpose in being in a ladies' room so late at night. The first is to let Lucy know of a problem. James and Grace are having a secret rendezvous, and a demon is set to guard the Blackthorn Manor may be following them. Lucy races to the Devil's Tavern to find who she can of the Merry Thieves, being Christopher and Thomas. Alistair also makes an appearance, frantically looking for Cordelia, who is no longer at Anna's flat. Before things get too out of hand, Matthew and Cordelia both arrive, and Lucy shares her message. James is in danger. James's meeting with Grace is not going well. She confronts him about the greenhouse and his feelings towards Cordelia, and says that her mother is mad with rage. The only solution is for them to elope, abandon a lot of the Shadowhunters, and start their life anew. Grace begs him to agree, but James cannot. As if on cue, demons emerge, and they're on the attack. The others arrive, but they are still outnumbered. Hope is all but lost when the largest demon confronts James. The demon says he knows of James's grandfather, the demonic one, as opposed to the Welsh one. He calls James's grandfather the most cunning prince of hell, and claims to worship him. James attempts to call his bluff, demanding that they leave if that is the case. The demons leave, and the Shadowhunters vow not to tell anyone else. They return to the Institute and find that Ragnar Fell has already answered their summons. Ragnar gives them yet another name, Emmanuel Gast. And as the conversation ends, Will and Tessa re-enter the room with grim tidings. Barbara has died. At the Carstairs' house, Cordelia and Alistair bicker. Before long, the decision is made to retire when a guest calls. Alistair insists that he'll get it, and that Cordelia go to bed. But Cordelia decides to eavesdrop when she sees that the visitor is none other than Charles Buford. What unravels is an affair of star-crossed love between Alistair and Charles. Alistair would do anything for Charles, but Charles is dead set on marrying a woman, as befits his status. Another attack happens the following morning, and the Shadowhunters set off to seek Emmanuel Gast. Having no luck with the landlady, they climb through the window, with ease. Well, mostly. They find the room filthy and covered with dust, some odd shards on the floor, and the rotting corpse of Emmanuel Gast. Lucy somehow summons his ghost and compels him to answer questions. He had summoned the demon for a mysterious someone, only for the demon to attack him, despite the assurance that it would only attack Shadowhunters. Later at the Institute, Tatiana arrives. She's been attacked. James finds Grace at the foot of her mother's sickbed, and the pair go to talk. As they leave the infirmary, Anna and Cordelia enter it. It's at Ariadne's bedside that Cordelia learns that Charles has broken off his engagement to Ariadne. Meanwhile, Lucy confronts Matthew about his alcoholism, a conversation that does not go well. Now in the drawing room, James and Grace talk. James apologizes for the state of Grace's mother, but Grace does not want to address the subject. Instead, she wants to talk about their relationship. She and James no longer have an understanding, and she is to wed Charles Buford Fairchild. She takes her bracelet back and takes her leave. Heartbroken, James flees. Matthew starts his pursuit, but is stopped by Grace. After an odd conversation, Grace tells Matthew to kiss her, and, almost as if compelled, he does. After drowning his sorrows in drink, James awakens, feeling almost good. The news of Grace's engagement to Charles is taken in stride. A letter arrives addressed to Lucy, but its contents are for Cordelia. James takes Cordelia the letter, and they discuss its contents. Her father's trial is not going well in Idris, as the mortal sword cannot verify the truth of what Elias cannot remember. Christopher interrupts the conversation. The mysterious shards found in Gast's apartment are the remains of a pyxis containing a manticore. At the Devil's Tavern, the Merry Thieves plus Cordelia and Lucy discuss the manticore demon, and a plan is made to trap it again in a pyxis. The only thing they need now is another pyxis. It just so happened that they had seen one in Hypatia Vex's chambers, so a plan is made to acquire it through Anna's ways of seduction. We close as we opened, once again at the Hell Royale, though this time Cordelia is preparing for our performance. Wow. And there we are.
So much happens.
Where to begin?
Oh, let's see. We left. What did we leave off at last time?
Where did we left off with Cordelia and Anna at tea?
Oh yes.
So we basically pick right back up with Matthew interrupting them.
You're right. Yeah.
Matthew, like, hello, I am here now. Anna, we are leaving. We must go.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, Cordelia's just like, I'm down. Okay, like I'll do it.
Cordelia's
That's
down for
true.
anything.
Cordelia is just like, sign me up. Yeah.
Which in a way is like Cordy the dog. Doesn't need to know what's happening. It's just like, sign me up, I'm in. I want to be included.
Cordelia is totally aware of what she's in for and is totally down to do it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Cordelia the dog is not very aware of things most of the time. Milo the dog got into this habit of eating vegetables. When I go to feed feed the tortoise, there's frozen veggies, and I would just like toss the dog some veggie just because, like, why not? But then he's like, he needs it now. Like, it's important.
What have you done, Ginny?
And the veggies are collard greens, so they're not
They're
even
not,
like
like,
good veggies.
Good veggies.
It's raw
No.
collard greens, and not even the leafy part. The
But at
stems,
least he's eating
mostly.
healthy.
Yeah. So for some reason, Milo got very fixated on this idea, and now Cordy is fixated on, not because she ever cared, but because Milo is so fixated on it that she has to be included now.
The thing is, Milo is so polite about it. He sits by the gate and just waits and just. And Cordy, meanwhile,
she's so rude about it. Yeah, so insists about everything. So yeah.
Anyway,
Cordelia is not so rude. She is quite concerned about being polite and making a good impression and all those sorts of things.
She is, which is interesting that she then decides to go to the, this hotbed of scandalous activity.
Yeah.
Kind of,
she wants to be included, though,
But I also think
she's
she
new in
probably
town.
wants to, like...
New in town?
Not defy her mother, but, like... Her mom is very, like... I don't know if protective is the right word, but, like... She's very, you have to be a lady kind of thing, like... Yeah.
Like Cordelia.
I think part of it is Cordelia wanting to break out of that mold.
I agree. There's some exploration that she wants to do, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Figure out who she is, that her mother's insistence of she has to fit this role.
it's interesting because family is really important to her. Like
Mhm.
Cordelia, like she wants to please her mother, but again, she's new, she's making friends, and that's exciting.
It
Yeah.
is. And, you know, like, she was the kid who moved around a lot. So she was the kid who didn't, you know, stick in any one place for a long time, so she didn't have time to, like, build other relationships. And she's finally in London, where there's this whole enclave of young, you know, kids her age, so to speak. And, like, it's her job to get to know them because she's looking out for her father, right? So
And she's
she's
also
kind of
going to
enjoying
be
this process, you know?
Lucy's parabatai, and Lucy is
Mm-hmm.
friends with all of these people, so
Yeah, yeah, there is that Lucy connection, and then James,
Oh,
swoon.
James. Oh.
which if we want to talk about James and Cordelia, we could.
Yeah, they, yeah,
They didn't have like any explicit, you know,
There was not a
admission
lot
of
of steamy
feelings,
happening in these chapters.
but they definitely have some moments where, like, at the end of these set of chapters when Cordelia comes out in that dress, you know, we are informed that James is pretty much staring at her
All the
because
boys are
she's
like,
so beautiful. Matthew too, but like James,
that too.
it's more important
Interestingly,
that it's James.
I wouldn't say it's
And
more
then
important that it's James. I think that this is an interesting turning point for Matthew. As obviously, oh, may I go
go
off on
ahead.
this tangent? So,
Yeah.
I think that this is interesting for both James and Matthew, right? Because this is right after James and Grace have broken off their understanding, right?
Yeah.
And so he is seeing Cordelia and like having obviously emotions for Cordelia, but also we see Matthew like looking at Cordelia in this way. And I think that it's interesting when this happens in Matthew's narrative because something that I've noticed, because this is a reread for me, is just how often Matthew is looking at Lucy in these first several chapters. You know? And I forget. Oh, it's James and Lucy who talk about it. And then James has the thought of something like, "Oh, it's like the remains of a childhood fascination," and he doesn't really put much stock in that. But Matthew is kind of always looking at Lucy. And then Lucy confronts him about his alcoholism. And that conversation does not go well. Which, good on Lucy for calling him out on his shit. But
yeah,
Matthew is offended. And like this scene happens very shortly after that. So it's interesting how quickly Matthew has sort of let go of this fascination with Lucy to now turn towards Cordelia in
Was
this
it
moment.
after?
It was after.
yeah, yeah.
So I think that progression is interesting.
It is. We haven't seen him interact again with Lucy after the little confrontation. I don't think.
I don't think so either, no.
Really, not truly. Like there's a group setting, but it's not. But it is really interesting. And Lucy, when Lucy and James talk about that, James is like, that Matthew like has feelings for you, and I know that you don't return them because like they know. And Lucy's
Mhm.
like, Lucy's like, no, I don't think it's real. And James is like, yeah, it isn't real, but so they both know that Matthew's interest in Lucy isn't like a genuine.
Yeah, like I
But
pulled this
Matthew
out.
doesn't know that.
Lucy is talking to Matthew or talking to James or something about it. Where did I Yeah, Lucy is talking to Matthew and she's saying that Matthew isn't like she sees Matthew not as a man, as a brother kind of thing. And Matthew is like,
He's not a man. We used to hit each other with soup ladles as children. Whatever that line was.
and it's not that she's saying he's not a man. She's saying that she doesn't see him as a potential suitor that she could marry, and that, hurts Matthew because he likes her.
Yeah, there is a moment where Matthew does not like ha 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 about it. He's just like, oh.
Yeah, and then this
And
confrontation happens, and then Matthew feels exposed, like seen for who he is. And I feel like maybe some of Matthew's fascination with Lucy is the idea that she knew him and perhaps still sees him as he was, as sort of this unblemished, happy-go-lucky person. But then he finds out that Lucy does see behind his bullshit and sees him for, the damaged and self-sabotaging the
knows
person he's become.
that he's hurting. Doesn't know why.
Exactly. And it's too much for him to handle at that point.
Because she calls him out saying that he should have been able to climb that wall because they were scaling a wall without any problems, and blames it on the alcohol. Because it is.
Matthew's like, oh, it's
and
the
I
new
want to
boots.
hug my
You can't do it in
Matthew.
the new boots. And then, yeah, Lucy's like, bullshit.
I want to hug my Matthew.
He needs so many hugs.
If we're talking about...
that moment was interesting for that.
Yeah, if we're talking about feelings and relationships and things like that, I have so many thoughts. I'm so confused on this whole Thomas and Alistair and Charles.
They're gay, Ginny. Not Ginny, Melanie. I know that this is very confusing for you.
No, really? I didn't pick up on that.
I just like to fill you in and let you know. They're gay.
That's not what I mean, and you know
this
that,
is not
but that's okay.
Heron's truthing. This is on the page.
That's not what I mean, and you know that, but that's okay. So, the reason I'm confused is because when we have that little interlude with Thomas in Paris and seeing Alistair, I'm like, they're in love. They're going on dates. Like, they go on a date to the museum. They go on a date to the movies.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wrote this down. Yeah, I said Thomas, like, shivering when Alistair touches him. And, like, the mention of Thomas liking darker hair, the thing about their hands touching. I was like, this is so being set up. Like, and then we have Alistair and Charles. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what? Hello? What?
I mean, unrequited love trope. There it is, you know?
And so I picked this up when Charles and Alistair are talking at whatever the Carstairs place is. Alistair says something about, he's like, I love you, Charles. And he says, like, I thought you loved me. And this is what Charles says. He says, I do. You know I do. Which he doesn't say, I love you. And to me, it gives manipulation and gaslighting.
Charles Buford sucks, everyone.
Charles fucking Buford, man.
We were so excited. We were rooting for you.
I feel like throughout back half of these chapters I was constantly yelling, Charles Buford!
This is a recurring.
Yeah.
Charles Buford!
I think I had written, did I write this down or did I think it in my head? I was like, your parents would be so disappointed in you.
We'll
I'm
save
sorry,
the
but
conversation on the
Charlotte
parents
especially.
for a different
Charlotte
episode,
especially.
But... Oof.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm
We've
like,
gotta talk about.
I'm like so confused now if like, I'm guessing Thomas and Alistair are still being set up, but Alistair is also in love with Charles, and I'm super confused.
So it was my interpretation that the Charles and Alistair thing has been an on and off thing that's kind of existed in the background since before Paris.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. But
And
maybe
the thing is, the Paris bit is really not that long either. It's like a couple weeks that it's maybe even a week that Thomas is in Paris on vacation. So despite them going on like a few dates, it's really over the course of like a couple days, actually.
I get that.
Yeah.
What I meant is that it felt like it was being set up to be something.
It still can be.
Maybe. It was only book
one. It still
one.
could be. And that's what I'm saying. But when I read that and then we go down to Charles and Alistair and I was like, I'm sorry, what? What? Hello? What's going on?
We're supposed to get the whiplash of, wait a second. Yeah.
And they almost bow chicka wow wow too.
And Cordelia's like, should I go? How do I just leave?
So yeah,
Cordelia
I was
knows
just
what
like,
happens after kissing. Lucy does not. It's fine.
I'm just like, I don't want to like Alistair still, so he better have some real good character development.
Thomas likes Alistair. Lucy was like,
He
show me
does
your
like
tattoo.
Alistair.
Thomas was like, yeah. And Alistair's like,
And then Alistair,
Thomas was
I
like,
did clock that. Alistair asks, and he is like, okay. I clocked that.
I was like, simp. We see
Yeah.
you.
So I guess it was more just like, it was very clear that Thomas was having feeling for Alistair, and like maybe Alistair kind of did, but was not because of Charles.
So I think the Paris is interesting because
Possible.
Alistair's experiencing what it feels like to be loved back. And loved back in a public way. You know, because they are, like, going out together. And they are, like, doing things and, like, actively spending time together. And I get the impression from the Charles and Alistair interaction that they don't do that. That Charles is very much keeping,
because
anything they do on the hush-hush.
Yeah,
it's very secretive. And
Cordelia
like I said
didn't know
earlier,
about it, obviously, so.
The fact that Charles is like, I do, you know I do, and not, I do love you or whatever, like he doesn't say that he loves Alistair, it feels like gaslighting.
It's very telling, especially because Charles Buford's romantic situation. Now, he was engaged to Ari, you know, which we know, obviously, behind the scenes, having read the short stories and having seen from Anna and from Charles, that it's, you know, they're each other's beard. Neither of them are straight, but they're just doing it for status because it's what they're supposed to do, right? And then, but and Ari, who was still in a coma, Charles has decided to break off that engagement.
Charles is a dick.
Yeah, he really is. Like,
to become engaged to Grace. And so I think this is an interesting time to talk about Grace and James
I don't trust her.
And everything that's happening there. Why don't you trust Grace, Melanie?
She's manipulative, the same way in Charles is. Because this whole conversation where Grace wants James to, where is this? Whatever, I don't know if I wrote down the whole thing, but basically, like, the whole conversation where Grace breaks up with James and she's like, run away with me, like, give up your family, give up being a Shadowhunter and all that. And she's like, it was a test. And I'm like, you manipulative little, like, I don't like you. I don't trust you. And the fact that she's moving on so quickly to, you know, marry Charles. And that she's like, if you loved me, you would give it up. You would have said yes. And I'm like, no, if you loved him, you wouldn't ask him to give up his family.
Yeah.
And the fact that, you know, she gets this bracelet back. And then also, like, I know this is more about Grace and James, but I want to mention another reason I also don't trust her because of what happens with Matthew.
Oh, yep.
Well, yeah.
And I don't. How did she? Yeah. How? What magic? What power does she have that she's able to basically compel Matthew to kiss her?
And if we remember back to the short stories too, when Magnus first met Grace, he felt like a similar compulsion to her, and he was like, "This is magic that I don't recognize. Like, what is happening here?"
Which is why I was thinking she wasn't actually a Cartwright. That she's something else. I don't know how true that is, but I don't trust her because she's manipulative and she's like, you will not tell James what happened for Matthew, like, otherwise I will tell him something, whatever she says.
Yeah. And forever how much James was infatuated with Grace, he responds to the breakup surprisingly well the next morning.
And everybody notices that, like, or like Cordelia specifically notices that he looks like he's like more with it. Like, most of the time when he's around them, he looks a little not there. You know, like there's a disconnect.
There's another.
He talks about feeling lighter. Specifically, is the language that he uses in the morning.
I pulled out what he actually said, but I don't. If we want to move on to something else, we can. I don't have to like.
Go for it. What did he say?
Hold on, I'm gonna find it. Everything is sharper and clearer. Color and textures are different. And I kind of said almost as if he was blinded by Grace, and now that she's gone, like from his love, that is, he's seeing everything the way he always should have.
Yeah, which in turn kind of sparks these feelings or he's being brought more aware of Cordelia.
He always had the feelings, but now he's allowing himself to actually like feel them.
Right, because in previous chapters, he'll think about Cordelia, and then he kind of like, it's like we're straying off course, and then we kind of, it's like those old roller coasters that have like leeway on their track where they hit it and then they kind of bump back, you know? So he's kind of doing that. He's on the Grace track.
That's this whole weird dream about her.
Exactly. So it's interesting how his thoughts would always go back to Grace, but now
really starting to plant the seeds.
They're not.
Yep.
Hmm.
And
Like,
yeah, I thought that whole scene was interesting with Grace because it's so much, and we can get that sense that James is kind of under this compulsion. We see that through all these things that happen, but he, despite however much he thinks he's in love with her and he would do anything for her, when she says you have to leave your family and your friends and everything for me, it's a no. It's
I
just
also
no.
think it's interesting to compare how he reacted to this breakup versus how he reacted in the Bane Chronicles.
They do mention that. They do mention the
Yes.
last time that he and Grace broke up.
Right.
He was drunk.
And that
Magnus
wasn't
Bane
even,
had to say
it was
that.
not, was it a breakup or was it just Grace being like, we can't,
It
communicate
was-
anymore?
I think it was a breakup, but he still had the bracelet.
He had the bracelet, but it was
So what about,
something dramatic.
so it's more of a rhetorical question, I guess, is what makes this situation different that he reacted so much better? Is it just that he's a little bit more mature now? Who knows?
Well, I mean, she took the bracelet back this time. There was that.
Maybe it was the
I
finality
think
of
the
it.
bracelet has, and I remember, if you remember last week, I don't want to keep going about on this forever because I know we have other things to talk about. If you remember last time, I mentioned that I felt like the bracelet was sort of like magical in that like James was never able to take it off because it said something about like loyalty binds us.
That is what it says. Yep.
But then he was able to take it off because Grace asked for it back.
Yeah.
Mayhaps.
Anyway, we can move on now.
We know there's something weird with it and her.
There's something weird with
and-
Grace in general.
Yeah, she just got a lot of weird vibes going on, and she's so dramatic all the time, and everything is like such a big deal. And then yeah, when he says no, boom, Charles Buford.
Literally, like what, a day?
Charles Buford.
Yeah, like a day. And now, yeah, Ariadne's reputation is going to be demolished from this. You break off an engagement, and she's in a coma. And
This is not fair.
Charles is like, we're going to tell
It's
everyone we
fine.
decided before
Charles
she
is a
went into the
dick.
coma. Please, bitch. Like,
I don't like
off with
Charles.
that narrative.
ugh.
Charles
Oh,
Buford.
Charles, your parents. I did actually write down. When I was scrolling through my notes, I saw that I wrote down your parents would be so disappointed in you.
Oh,
Ugh. Charles.
Um,
We are
Maybe
so
we
We
should-
also
disappointed
had plot
in
happening
Charles.
in our silly little YA romance novel.
but there's also more romance. But we can talk about the plot.
Oh, is it Jesse?
Did we talk
and
about all the
Lucy?
major romances, actually? I think we might have hit them all.
No, we didn't talk about Jesse and Lucy, which I feel like
Oh,
we can maybe
eh.
more talk about that in the plot.
That's fair. I was like, I
We
didn't get a lot
of
of
Jesse
romance.
and Lucy.
They didn't get a
vibes.
lot of it, but they just had moments where they
He's
interacted.
pulling her pigtails a lot.
He is.
He's being annoying.
Oh.
But I know
He's
that they're
smart
gonna end up
aleck.
together.
critiques
So.
on your writing.
You use radiant
But I
too
know that
many
he's gonna come back
times.
to life and they're gonna end up together. So I'm just like, crumbs.
Yeah, he's pulling her pigtails. We're getting the blossom, and she's getting flustered by it in a way that we don't usually see Lucy flustered. So
We
Something
for
there.
plot, we learned some things.
we did,
We learned we saw the return of Ragnar Vel, King.
we did. He was like, "Where's Christopher? Get us away from the
Long
premises."
suffering.
Hey, Professor Ragnar.
We met a new warlock. Well, we met some new downworlders, but like more specifically, a new high warlock of London,
Who's the new High Warlock of London? I forgot.
Malcolm Fade.
Ah, that's right.
Yes.
And I'm just like, why does his name sound suspiciously like Magnus Bane?
Eh,
I think. Well, we know that warlock naming convention. Warlocks usually take a second name that is one syllable and a thing. It's like we have Hypatia Vex, we have Katarina Loss. We have
I
Magnus
know, but
Bane.
it was just like it felt like it was very similar to Magnus Bane.
It does feel kind of similar. I see where you're going.
But yeah, he's a character. I don't know how else to describe him.
He shows up and then he disappears. He has like 2 lines on a page, but he exists.
so you said that Malcolm was in this.
Who?
Right?
It's my
Hypatia
first
we see
note.
a lot more.
But that's it.
Yeah, so we have
Yeah.
Hypatia, who is a different warlock, and she's running this
Who-
downworlder salon, right?
has a history with. Seems
She,
like.
Anna has history with a lot of people. Listen,
Oh, I'm aware.
Anna's notebook. I was like, damn, I aspire
Oh.
to have
And they
that
were
kind of lady
what,
killer
what did they
energy.
say? Was it? Oh yeah, the name Eugenia was in there, and he was like, "My
Was that
sister."
my sister? Probably
Yeah.
not.
And she's like, "Oh, probably
God,
not."
yeah. Right.
Which, like, they already
Anna,
cousins,
I
so I
stand
certainly
Anna.
hope not. But
I stand Anna. I'm like, yeah, you're related, so like, let's not.
I want to grow up and be Anna Lightwood. That is my plan. But yeah, so she just walks into these downworld salons with Matthew, and they're just like, "Hey, Anna," like, she's garnered this
Let's hang
respect
out.
outside the Shadowhunter community, which is interesting.
She's like, "I'm gonna seduce you now."
Exactly. She's got all these ladies under her thumb, and the fact that she keeps them all in a fucking notebook with notes. And Virginia Woolf.
Anna.
I literally asked. I was like, "Is there Virginia?" She mentions Virginia Woolf.
Yeah, she's a writer. You should look out for her stuff sometime.
I was like, "Okay, I see what you're doing there, Cassie Clare."
But yeah, Anna slabs.
But when the gang, the Merry Thieves and the girls go to Emmanuel's apartment, they find him very dead.
Yes, he is very dead.
Yep.
And stinky.
Yeah, he is stinky. Corpse has been there a little bit.
Though, funnily enough, Lucy walks in there, and then his ghost just appears. And he's like, "Why did you summon me?" And then Lucy's like,
And she's
what
like,
now?
"I didn't." Yeah. So Lucy has some sort of untapped necromancy powers. Because she also compels him to
special juice.
Give her information.
Exactly, and he can't lie to her, which is strange.
Well,
you know?
I thought Lucy was not sure if he was lying or not, because that's what she has to
They
say
aren't
about.
sure. Because, yeah, they do go and consult their resident ghost.
Mr. Jesse. My girl, Jessamine.
Jessamine. Yep.
And I was like, am I going to have to start calling her Jessamine rather than Jessie to differentiate between Jessie and Jessie?
Oh, God.
Probably, because there's two ghost Jessies now.
That's terrible. I hate it.
We can't even definitively say, like, ghost Jessie and not, like, no. We have to.
Female Jessie and male Jessie.
Yeah.
I'll just do Jessamine.
Yeah.
But she says the ghost can lie, but Lucy was sus.
Right.
Yeah. I think they sort of are like, well, it depends on like the situation kind of thing. I'm not sure. It was unclear.
It's unclear. A little not definitive in the end, but
she did find out that he summoned the demon. Or just one demon, so not many. And that he summoned it for somebody.
But this one demon breaks off into like all these.
Right. No, that was the Cerberus demon. Oh yes, it was. There was two demons that did that. The Cerberus demon and
the Cerberus demon at the Blackthorn Manor did that because because experiments.
I was getting them confused, but they both kind of did that. Yeah.
Eggs Benedict Lightworm is doing some funky experiments.
His experiments still have after effects.
But the Manticore is something different. The Manticore is what's behind these daylight attacks and whatnot. And the interesting thing that they find out upon further inspection to that is that you can't kill one easily. Because when you do, it spawns more.
They also find out, which is something I unintentionally predicted, was that the Manticore demon was being held in a Pyxis. And I remember when we saw the box with the Ouroboros on it, and I was like, the Ouroboros. Like, for whatever reason, I thought that was the Pyxis that Will's dad, Edmund, had. It wasn't. But I was like, oh, is that like the Pyxis? And then it ended up being just a different Pyxis, so I was just like, oh, I wasn't entirely wrong.
A different but important Pyxis, because Anna gotta go swipe it while she's doing the deed.
If we had a nickel for every time that a Herondale boy had to fight a demon that came out of Pyxis, we'd have two.
We wouldn't quite have two nickels yet, because has he fought that demon yet?
Technically, I guess they've...
Well, he fought the ones at the Shadowhunter Academy, too.
Okay. Speaking of James and the demons, he gets some interesting information from a demon.
He does. when he, after, or I guess while, kind of, he's breaking up with Grace, or Grace is breaking up with him, rather, the demons appear. And that's...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, they appear to recognize him, which is odd.
Yep.
And they mention that they worship or something his grandfather, one of the princes of hell.
Yeah. And then when James tells them to be gone, they're like, we'll respect it because, to show that we respect
your grandfather.
Your grandfather and stuff. And so then they leave.
And I know there are multiple princes of hell, but I was secretly like, what if it's Asmodeus and him and Magnus siblings? Or half related, whatever, you know what I mean?
that would be.
And Magnus are like half siblings.
That would mean Tessa and Magnus are half siblings.
That's what I meant when I originally said. That's what I meant.
So that would make him their uncle.
Yeah.
Uncle Magnus.
Uncle Magnus. I already is Uncle Magnus regardless.
I highly doubt it's Asmodeus, but I was just like, I know that name of one of the princes of hell. So what if, that's what fanfiction is for, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, James is definitely unnerved by this discovery, and that's part of why they decide to, never speak of it.
Yeah. It's fine. I mean, James is commanding demons, and Lucy is compelling ghosts.
They're probably
Herondale
fine.
things.
Just Herondale things. It's fine.
And we also, you mentioned it in the summary, unless we have something else to talk about with the Herondales.
What did I mention in the summary?
I was going to talk about Cordelia and Elias, her father.
Okay.
I just didn't know. It was kind of like unrelated, so I didn't know if anyone had any final thoughts on the Herondale of it all.
I mean, I always have more thoughts about Herondale.
I mean, yes, but that were
my one.
But you know what I mean, to not like just take the conversation away from something.
Listen, my one note on James Herondale, I also love tea, James.
Oh god. So there's that moment.
And the cab driver being like, "Good for you, buddy."
James is walking Cordelia back to her house, and then,
her mom is like,
"Oh,
her mom's
the Herondale boy,
a suitor for my daughter."
But he'd like to come in for some tea at this very late hour.
And Cordelia's like, "He's got to go, Mom. Bye."
Mom, he's got to go, Mom.
I love tea.
Yeah. Cordelia we hear a little bit from Charlotte because we get a letter from Charlotte. I miss Charlotte. I miss her. And we learn that Elias has no memory of the events that he's being accused of. And I'm like, that's convenient.
It is very convenient.
Yeah,
something's going on there.
Something is. He does not remember the thing he's being accused of, and therefore the mortal sword is useless.
I fully believe that Charlotte is doing everything she can to help, so I'm not mad at Charlotte. I'm mad at the rest of the Clave.
I feel that.
Fair. Being mad at the Clave is valid.
I
think I wrote this in my notes for last session, but it's relevant still here today. Somehow, in every book, in every series, there's a problem that the Clave refuses to deal with, and the children have to deal with the consequences. The children have to save the day.
Because Will comments on that as well. Yeah. I don't remember if it's
he does.
The previous ones, where he's like, when I was a child, like I was frustrated because the Clave would not take action on things. It's like, but now I am the Clave, and I'm still frustrated that they won't take action on things. And I was just like, if that doesn't sum up the experience of adulthood, I don't know what does.
Man, I was like, it's almost as if they're main characters in a book.
Main characters gotta do the things.
Yeah, the Clave has been useless. Has always been useless. Will continue to be useless, and the children will continue to not tell the adults about what's going on.
Yeah. Well, they make all these promises of like, oh, you got to keep it secret, and you got to keep it secret, and
everybody has so many fucking secrets. Communication, y'all.
Yeah, I think was it Cordelia or Lucy who's like, well, I'm already holding this secret. What's one more?
Yeah,
I think
one of this. Yeah, I think it would have been Lucy. I'm not sure.
It sounds like Lucy.
And then it does sound like Lucy. And then James says something too about how many things he's keeping quiet. Or there's something about how much James is holding on to, and it's fine.
Listen, the demons suck,
and Matthew
but the real enemy here is communication.
Matthew, my child, is also holding on to a lot because I think it's Ragnar who mentions like, oh, like your mother has recovered, like, oh, glad to hear your mom's recovered from her illness or something like that. And Matthew's just like,
yeah, that sounds right.
right,
Yeah.
sure. And I'm just like, Matthew,
baby,
my boy, I love you. Also, with Matthew, like in Cordia, with Lucy, I'm like, listen, if you two weren't Herondale and Fairchild, I could ship it. But considering what we know about the future and who is with who in the future,
I mean, that would be the weird
Nah.
incest subplot that we need
Nah.
to complete our Cassie Clare bingo. I'm still looking for it, and these haven't found it yet.
You haven't found it yet. But we've got a few more books in this series to find it somewhere.
Will is such a good dad. I'm just gonna throw that out
I mean, yeah, we could say the weird incest subplot is the Eugenia and Anna if we're stretching it.
there.
The reference has been made.
Right.
Said maybe.
Yeah,
And
no,
one
Will's a good
reference to
dad.
the
Tessa's a good
weirds.
mom.
I like Tessa a lot more as the kid's mom than I did as the main character. Honestly, she and Will
Her
are doing
motherly
great.
instinct is
Yeah.
more. I don't want to say like. I don't know, like not relevant, because I think you can still be sort of a motherly figure to your friends, like, you know, the mom friend kind of
Hey,
thing.
mom friend. Yeah.
That would be me. But it, you know, I guess it makes more sense, you know, as an actual mother.
It does.
What else is there to talk about?
You see that Will and Tessa are like very much in love still. And
Oh, yeah.
Your mother and father are going to kiss now. If you'll stay
Like,
If
and
you want to
follow,
leave,
there will
so
be
be it.
conversation on something else, and then I'm out.
James is like,
I'm
yeah.
like, ugh. Did I say Jesse James? Everybody starts with a J name.
Just like Jesse James.
We also had the
So-
return of Brother Jemariah for a brief moment.
Yeah. Always. The Jays.
James is like, do you know about this? And Jem is
Then-
like, maybe. And then that's it.
I do think, though, that Jem would have wanted to be there when Barbara died for Sophie and Gideon. So I was like, I could
James,
excuse him being
Jesse.
there for this.
Just been.
I can't. Brother Jemariah. He would want to be there for Sophie and Gideon, which
He would.
my heart is breaking for them. My heart is breaking for Sophie and Gideon.
Yeah.
This is our first character death.
It
Yeah.
is.
And the first person that like these kids know.
Yeah,
by
we
name?
didn't know her that well,
No.
but we
It's
know
the
that
kid's
she was a
first, like,
Lightwood.
loss too.
And as I would have liked, is it weird to say I would have liked to seen on the page like Sophie and Gideon grieving?
It's not weird, but I understand why we didn't get it
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
for Sophie and Gideon specifically, because we have not seen them on screen really. And it would
Which
weird
is
for the
going
first
back to, I
time
think I
be
mentioned,
morning.
which I get that's a lot of characters, but I think I had mentioned last time that I miss them. So that's just that I miss them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do get most of the parents are really minimal. You know, we just hear about them kind of in passing through these books, except for
Mhm.
like Will and Tessa take a little bit
Because
more of
it's
a
the Herondales.
yeah,
And they're spending a lot of time in the Institute, which
yeah,
you know.
which is run now by
Right.
yeah,
by
Will and Tessa.
We see a lot of Sona, Cordelia and Alistair's mom, but
So we've seen a lot of
We
people
do-
who reside in the homes
Yeah,
yeah.
with our main cast.
But also Tatiana Blackthorne is maybe dying.
she cried.
Good
We're talking about
riddance.
the adults.
And Grace is like, quick, she's dying, or she's in a coma. I have to get married now before she
Oh, my
wakes
mother
up.
cannot voice her disappointment and disagreement, I guess.
Ugh,
You have to get married right now.
Tatiana.
right now,
I
while
get,
she's in a
you know,
coma.
I get, Tatiana, that
That's fine.
the life has not been the most kind to you.
Yeah.
However,
And you know she's gonna
she
wake
needs
up out
to
of this.
recognize, and she won't, that it is not the fault of the Herondales.
No, you know she's gonna wake up and be like, Silent Brothers, Herondales, what have you done to me?
Especially
now
with
it's
our
Jemariah.
fault
She's gonna
somehow.
wake up and see Brother Jemariah standing over her. She's gonna hate him.
Exactly. She's gonna lose it.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
But
Tatiana.
anyway.
Tatiana needs therapy.
She does. She needs so much therapy.
We support therapy. And this is
Go
why we
get
are a support
therapy,
group.
everybody.
Listen, we're a support group. It's basically therapy.
That
It
true, we are
is,
the
yeah.
therapy.
We are the
Subscribe
therapy.
to the podcast on Apple Podcast and Spotify podcast and rate 5 stars and follow us on Instagram.
Listen to watch it on
and
YouTube.
Twitch. And
And follow us on social media.
for 3 therapy, only related to the Herondales, not related to anything else.
Nah, we can't help you with real life problems, but
We can at least provide a distraction if that's what you're looking for.
we can. We're great at distractions.
Indeed.
Yeah.
We're great at just
We're great at-
Herondales.
But we're back in
Um,
2 weeks.
Yes.
Yes, I believe
I
we
think.
are.
Considering I thought we were back last week and we weren't, and I was like, oh, okay.
We're not. We were away.
It
Yeah,
was
this time-
fun.
Or
'cause
no,
I
we're
was-
back next week.
Oh yeah, because we were away. Yeah.
JK. We'll be back on the 3rd.
Okay.
February.
It's gonna be a busy weekend for us then.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Gotta get right back into reading.
Gotta read.
We'll be back
some
with half
more.
of part 2, those exact chapters. Look on our Instagram for it, and they will be posted.
It's been really interesting reading this for the first time. And
Yeah.
getting those visceral reactions.
Indeed.
Yeah, it's exciting to have someone reading it the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's gonna be me with the Dark Artifices when Melanie and Ginny
No,
are
me
both reading it
too.
for the first time.
Valley,
It's
me
gonna be
too.
like,
We'll be in it together.
no, you and Ginny will be in it together. I've read all of them. Except for the Eldest
Oh,
Curses.
I thought you were saying. I'm sorry. I thought you were saying with the reactions. I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
When we do the Eldest Curses, then that will be my...
It'll be me and you when Ginny reads the second half of the Mortal Instruments.
There you go.
Yeah.
But anyway, thanks for coming to hang out with us.
Can't wait.
Reap
The
what you've
Whispering
had.
Room, guys. The
A
Whispering
good
Room.
week.
Oh, the
hope you have
Whispering
a good
Room.
week going forward.
Have a
I
good week,
missed what
everyone.
you said.
Yeah.
We'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye bye.